This is how a camera from over 60 years ago looks in 2025. It's just amazing. Today, I'm holding a Magnavox camera from the 1960s, a relic with a cathode ray tube that used to require massive equipment just to record. Sounds complicated? It really was. Can you imagine going back to 1960 and capturing every moment in elegant black and white? As a kid, I was mesmerized by shows like The Monsters or I Love Lucy, and by those iconic Mexican movies like Nosotros los Pobres by the legendary Pedro Infante, or Ahí está el detalle by the amazing Mario Moreno Cantinflas. I came across this mysterious Magnavox camera on eBay. It seems to date back to the 60s. It's black and white and uses a cathode ray tube, similar to old TVs. The most exciting part? It uses interchangeable C-mount lenses. I thought that was incredible. Being able to switch lenses really brings the look of this camera, and these lenses are still being made today. You can even adapt them from modern mirrorless cameras. I personally own two C-mount lenses that I use with my Sony camera, so I bought this camera for around $50, asking myself, can I bring this piece of history back to life and turn it into a portable camera ready to record in today's digital world? It might sound impossible, but if you follow my channel, you know I don't give up that easily. I've done similar projects in the past, modding other retro cameras from the 70s and 80s to record directly onto a microSD card. You can check out those videos right here. But this Magnavox camera is a whole different challenge. When I opened it up, I found a 12-pin cable and a video signal that's nothing like what I've seen in more modern cameras from that era, like the ones I've modded before. Do you want to see how I managed to make this vintage beauty camera record on a mini DVR, run on batteries instead of a giant transformer, and most importantly, keep that nostalgic vibe of the shows that shaped my childhood? But first, if you don't know what a mini DVR is, let me explain briefly. It's a tiny device that can record analog video onto a microSD card, and it costs less than $20. For me, it's the perfect solution for bringing retro cameras back to life. In this video, I'll show you the entire process, from the first time I saw the unstable signal on my monitor to the moment I turned on the camera and captured images that stayed true to the spirit of the 1960s. Get ready for a journey through time with a touch of DIY fun. Let's begin. So here it is, this Magnavox camera from the 1960s. In theory, it worked by connecting to a huge recorder from that time. I don't even think it uses VHS tapes, probably something older. Luckily, when I bought the camera, it came with this adapter, a kind of box that processes the video signal and powers the camera. And check out this cable, it's not removable, has 12 pins, and it's super long. Other retro cameras I've modded, the process was relatively simple. Open the camera, use my multimeter to find the power, video output, and audio output, and that's it. Well, it's a bit more complex, but you get the idea. But when I opened the cable on this Magnavox, I found way more wires than usual. The good news was that this adapter had an AC power cord for 110 volts, plus a video and audio output on the back. When I hooked everything up to my portable monitor and mini DVR, I got a signal. It was pretty unstable. The image showed up as a small circle in the center of the screen with black borders all around. At first, I didn't care much about that, because the imperfect look actually made it feel even more nostalgic. I knew the camera worked, at least enough to get some kind of image, so I was happy. I thought, cool, I just need to figure out the power, video, and ground cables like I've done before. Then it will be easy to turn this into a portable camera using a mini DVR and a 12-volt battery, right? I was about to find out it wasn't going to be that easy. I went ahead and cut the original cable, then used my multimeter to identify each wire for power, ground, video, and audio output. I thought I had found power and ground because a small red LED on the camera turned on when I connected the battery, but after multiple attempts, I couldn't find a composite video signal. I kept cutting, soldering connectors, testing and testing again, and nothing. After more research, I learned that cameras from this era don't send a ready-to-record signal. They need a sync circuit to combine horizontal and vertical signals into a final image. In that moment, I understood. That's exactly what the external adapter box was doing. The camera alone can't generate a stable composite video signal. It needs a decoder to put all the parts together. Maybe this is obvious to an electronic expert, but for me, with my very limited knowledge, it was a huge puzzle. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing, but my curiosity kept me going. So I had two options. 1. Wait until February when I plan to study electronics formally and learn how to design my own circuit from scratch. 2. Use the adapter that I already have that came with the camera and make it portable. You guessed it, I went with the second option because, honestly, I wanted to see this camera working as soon as possible. I wasn't entirely sure it would work, but it was a faster solution, even if it wasn't the most elegant. Now, it was time to completely disassemble the box. I opened up the adapter and saw a big transformer inside. I also found a spot where I could feed it 12 volts directly, at least in theory. I thought, what if I power it with a battery instead of using the transformer? So I tried it, and to my delight, it worked! The camera's LED turned on, and I could see the image on my monitor. Sometimes it took a few seconds for the tube to warm up, but there it was. But this time, I was capturing the image directly from the video output of the box, no longer attempting to extract it directly from the camera's cable. The most interesting part was that I had discovered the box could be powered by batteries. I couldn't believe it. So at this point, the project seems really promising. But before continuing, if you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate if you could support it by giving it a like, subscribing to the channel, and especially leaving a comment, even just an emoji. Anything helps the YouTube algorithm promote my videos. Thank you so much. Let's continue. The next step was to get rid of the original cable. It was thick, extra long, and permanently attached to the camera. It also looked bad and wasn't practical if I wanted to display this camera on a shelf. So I labeled each of the 12 wires, power, sync signals, and so on. Finally, I replaced the cable with a male connector soldered directly into the internal board of the camera. It was delicate, 12 wires to solder. Now the camera doesn't have the giant cable hanging off it, and it looks much cleaner when it's not in use. Of course, I still needed a cable to connect the camera to the adapter box, so I made a new, shorter one. In general terms, this is what I did. I cut off part of the original cable to keep the female connector that fits into the adapter box. I make it shorter. I soldered the female connector on the other end to match the new male connector on the camera. Looking back, this might sound simple, but between the camera connector and this cable, I spent over 8 hours. I'm still a beginner, and I kept double checking my soldering to make sure everything was correct. It is funny to think that this whole step was driven by my desire to make everything as small and visually neat as possible. But I think it was worth it. Now the cable is removable and much less bulky. Now it was time to work on the box. I wanted it to be more compact, so I bought a $4 project case from AliExpress, along with three 18650 batteries, a small USB charger board for the batteries, and a power switch. My plan was get rid of all the unnecessary components like the transformer and redundant connectors, move the power LED by extending its wires so I could install it in the new case. Fit the main circuit board inside the new case, drill holes for the camera input cable, the audio and video output, the power switch, and the status LED. Then, I just needed to wire each component and install the connectors in their proper place. I used double-sided tape to secure the board inside, and honestly, it works great. It's strong and doesn't waste space. I also use hot glue in key spots to reinforce the connectors. My original plan was to leave the decoder inside the case and connect an external battery, but I noticed there was just enough space on the lid, so I thought, what if I mount the three 18650 cells here along with the USB charger? So I tried and everything fit well. I wired the batteries in series to provide the 12 volts needed for the board. I secured them with electrical tape and double-sided tape, leaving the USB charger's port sticking out of the small hole in the lid for easy charging. I also added a new power switch to turn the decoder on and off. Everything fit perfectly, almost down to the millimeter. Now, I wanted a way to mount a monitor. I still had a bit of space left on the lid, so I drilled a hole and attached a cold shoe adapter, the kind you use for mounting accessories on cameras. This way, I could mount my test monitor directly on the top of the decoder case. So now the final setup is like this. The camera is on the bottom, the decoder case with its built-in battery is on top, and then the monitor sits at the very top. It's like a portable tower. It's more like a retro Frankenstein, but it works. Finally, I added some Velcro to the camera and the base of the decoder so they attach neatly. I also put some Velcro on the mini DVR. Then I turned everything on, the decoder, the camera, and the mini DVR. After waiting a few seconds for the tube to warm up, the video appeared on my monitor. It had that classic retro vibe. Soft edges, strong contrast, but something had improved. This time, the image was much more stable than in my first test. I think the original transformer wasn't delivering consistent power, and using batteries provided a more stable output, which helped the cathode ray tube to perform better. I love that aesthetic, and the best part? I can now record the footage directly onto a micro SD card in the mini DVR. Sure, it's not as compact as designing my own circuit from scratch, but it works, and that was my main goal. Maybe someday, when I've learned more, I'll revisit this project and create a small decoder, ideally one that fits inside the camera. I'm really happy that I was able to bring new life to this Magnavox camera from the 1960s. Now I can capture moments with that special vintage look. The cathode ray tube gives the image a unique signature that reminds me of those shows from my childhood. Yes, the process was more complicated than I expected. The video signal wasn't composite, and I had to reuse the original decoder and rebuild it smaller into a new case. But after a lot of trial and error, I did it, and here it is, working. Maybe for some people this seems basic, but I learned a lot and had so much fun along the way. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for joining me on this DIY nostalgia-filled journey, and I'll see you in the next video.